Host of the Shankar Ponsalat podcast, Shankar shares his wealth of knowledge and expertise in utilizing AI for business success. He offers tips, tricks, and strategies that help entrepreneurs and business owners stay ahead of the curve and achieve their goals. Join us now at dailycontent.ai. Please give a warm welcome to Shankar Ponsalat.
Hello, everyone. Yes, thank you. All right, let's see who we have in the room here. It is evening in San Antonio. We are Sunday, April 9th, and we have Quang from Vietnam. Welcome. Carmen, not here for the first time. I've seen you before, of course, from Dallas, beautiful state of Texas as well. Shanaz, welcome to the room. Shanaz coming from Mumbai in India. And yeah, that's it for now. So the topic of the room tonight is, of course, podcasting and artificial intelligence. So first of all, I want to know if one of you here in the audience already has a podcast that they have produced at least 3 episodes for. Give me a thumbs up if you have such a podcast. Just gonna wait a moment here. Okay. Looks like you don't, which is probably why you have come to the room, because on some level you understand how important it is to have a podcast, and you might think of starting one, but it seems like it is incredibly overwhelming, and you're asking yourself, can artificial intelligence help me be more efficient with my podcast creation? If that is the case, please give me a thumbs up. Anyone here in the room is at least thinking about creating their own podcast? Give me a thumbs up. All right, come on, guys. You're just here for the fun, right? All right, that's fine. No problem. I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with podcasting, and I think it is just extremely powerful. There's almost like a revival that podcasting is seeing right now, and one of the latest updates about podcasts that I have seen is that YouTube now has podcasts built into their platform as well. Give me a thumbs up if you have already seen that. It's fairly recent. I think I got the email a week or 2 ago. Kwong has seen that. So essentially, when you go to your YouTube content, so far you've seen your videos, your shorts, and your playlists, but now there is an additional category, and that is a podcast. And it's essentially very close to their concept of a playlist, but there is a difference. In the YouTube Music app, in the future, there will be a separate podcast section where, of course, these podcasts will be listed and indexed. And I don't have to tell you how powerful that is, because so many people use YouTube to listen to podcasts, and now that is going to be made available. And it's just one of so many signs that podcasting is really up and coming again. Now, if you have asked yourself how to go about starting a podcast, it's actually not that intimidating. It really starts with finding a good name. The name is very important because it makes people either be interested in it or not. If you don't really know if you don't want to narrow down on a certain topic, you can always go with like in my case, I did the Shankar Ponsalat podcast, and then I gave the podcast a tagline, The Entrepreneur's Journey. So you need to have your name, your description, and also from a purely, I guess, technical perspective, what you need to get started is also a cover for your podcast that represents the podcast on the different listings. And that cover needs to be a square. Then what you need to do is you need to go with one of the many platforms that offer a podcast hosting and distribution service. There's a lot out there. The one that I use happens to be called bcast.fm. And what that platform does for you is it acts as the hosting server for the podcast. And that means it hosts the graphic that represents your podcast and the episode. It hosts the sound file, typically an MP3 file, and it hosts the podcast's description and show notes. So you upload that to the podcast platform. And then what the podcast platform will do is it will generate an RSS feed, which is nothing else but a way to kind of have a machine readable string feed of information that informs on where the sound file is, what the description is, and so on and so forth. So now what you need to do is, I think of an RSS feed as a web page for robots. Okay, humans go to an HTML page and can read everything, and robots go to an RSS feed and can read everything. It's really not that complicated. So your podcast hosting platform will give you that RSS feed, and then what you will do is you will go to the platforms where you want your podcast to be available on. I like to pick 4. The big 4, in my opinion, are Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and also YouTube. So you pick those 4, and what you want to do is you want to create an account for podcast creators on each platform. It's a fairly easy process. The most complicated one is the Apple Podcast one, because they want you to create an Apple ID, and I believe you have to attach a credit card to that account, even if you never, I've never had to pay anything for that podcast platform, but I think for whatever reason, in a more advanced feature, when you inject ads or you monetize your podcast, maybe you need to have that on file. But the process is really not that difficult. It takes, let's say, about five minutes per platform. Okay, and you only do that once. Each platform, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube, will give you an address. And that address you can enter into your podcast hosting platform for distribution. Conversely, that initial RSS feed that I mentioned that is given by the podcast hosting platform, in my case bcast.fm, that RSS feed URL, you want to paste that into the podcast platform of choice. So you're going to paste it into Apple Podcast, into Google Podcast, into Spotify. And with YouTube is slightly different because there's just an integration where you push your podcast to YouTube. So that is really it. Now, a lot of people think that is like this whole mystery behind it and it's complicated to set up, but that's it. I've just given you the basic steps. Now, What you need to do next is you need to record a sound file. And if you're a beginner and you don't want to make this complicated, I recommend you just hop on a Zoom call with someone. You record the Zoom call either in the cloud or on your machine locally. And then when you're done, Zoom lets you export the sound file only. Okay. And there you have your podcast. Don't make this complicated. Don't go for all the fancy tools and machines at the beginning. Just have a Zoom call with your interviewee if you have one. If your podcast is a monologue, you can actually open a Zoom call just on your own and record that as well. As I said, Zoom lets you export the sound file. You have your MP3 file. And now what you will do is you will go into your podcasting platform. Again, in my case, what I use is bcast.fm. You upload the file. You give the episode a title. You give the episode a description and also your show notes. And then you hit publish. And then it takes about 1 or 2 minutes and you will see your podcast already available on Apple, on Google, and so on and so forth. That's it. Usually these podcast softwares also generate a landing page for you for the podcast that is agnostic of the different podcast platforms. In other words, if you in theory have people who don't use Apple Podcast or YouTube or Google Podcast or Spotify or whatever it is, you can still give them a URL and then they go to a self-hosted landing page / website where they have the episodes available to them. Now, that's it. So I want to touch briefly on how AI makes this whole process a lot easier. And here it goes. So I'm going to use the example of this audio room. So right now, my dear friends, this audio room is recorded. So the way I do this is I have basically a recorder that I switched between, I connected it to my computer. And then when we're done, I'm going to export that file. And now the work starts, right? You need to come up with a title, a description, show notes, and sometimes also these timestamps where you indicate important aspects, important parts of the podcast, right? So in the past, that was a manual process, took a lot of time. Nowadays, with AI, you can upload the sound file to a service, an AI service, and within 4 to 5 minutes, it spits all of the aforementioned things out. It gives you the title, it gives you the short description, it gives you a social media post, it gives you the timestamps, it gives you the show notes. It even writes a newsletter based on your podcast for you. It even writes a blog post based on your podcast for you. Okay. So now all you need to do is you need to quickly, upload your sound file to your podcasting software. You copy paste the different segments into the respective fields. And then, of course, very powerful. What I never did, I never created these takeaway moments because they needed timestamps and a subtitle for each takeaway. For example, right now we are at minute 14 and I would have to enter minute 14 subtitle Shankar goes over the subtitle over the timestamp importance, right? Also, that right now is taken care of, and you can do that. You can create these takeaway moments on the podcasting platforms. If you do that on YouTube videos, by the way, that is how you can have these chapter markers created for you on YouTube videos. Some of you might already have seen these videos where you have convenient like along the timeline, you have these blocks that you can hover over that describes what is going on that part of the video, and you can click it and it jumps straight to there. As a matter of fact, a lot of YouTube viewers refuse to watch through a whole video if there are not these chapter markers. Again, all of this used to be a lot of work in the past, and now this whole process is done in, as I said, 5 to 10 minutes. I can guarantee you when we close this audio room, you can come back in about 20 minutes to the post here on LinkedIn about this event, and in the comments, I will post the live podcast for you, so you can see that in action and you can see that I didn't promise you too much. It's very, very important, obviously, that you get started with podcasting for so many reasons: for brand building, for reaching new audiences, for working through ideas. All of those benefits, I don't think I have to explain to you why that is important. So at this point, I would like to open up the stage to questions and or comments, concerns from the audience, if I have anyone who wants to join me and contribute to the conversation. If there is a person like that, another very cool feature in the podcasting service that I use is that I can say, there was a guest, here's the name and the email address. And as soon as the podcast is released, that person gets a notification to the podcast. So if you want to see that in action, just come on up on stage. You don't have to say very much, maybe just your name and where you're from and what you're doing. Don't be afraid. That's really not that big of a deal if you want to do that. At the same time, you may be not in a position where that is possible right now, which is fine. Okay, I think then I'm gonna wrap this up. I have one more announcement to make. First of all, if you're not following me already, please do so. And then, Rena seems to be taking me up and join me on stage. It makes me very happy. Let's see. Rena, how are you tonight? Where are you from?
Hi, I am in Florida on vacation, and you may hear some TV and children in the background.
No problem.
I just wanted to know which AI tools you have tried. What are your thoughts on Descript?
Yeah, I have tried a lot of them because I make I make it a point to explore the tools and then report on them for my community. I have used Descript. I like Descript a lot for the injection of missing parts, and of course also for the overdub feature where you can basically clone your own voice and add parts that have been missing. That's what I have been using Descript for. And then, but the one that I am using to do all of the things at once in one user interface that I referred to in this audio room is a fairly new one, and it's called Pod Squeeze. And it saves me so much time because I don't have to use several tools and string them together, but it's all in one place, and I can upload the sound file. And even if I have a video file, I can upload a video file as well. And then it will generate, again, as I said, it suggests titles, it creates the show notes, the summary, a newsletter, the timestamps, mentions to people, very powerful. And it even is integrated into ChatGPT 4. So let's, for example, say that it spits out the summary for you, but you don't quite like it. Then there you can tell it, hey, you got my name wrong, or I want you to focus a little bit more on that aspect, and then it will rewrite it. So Those two tools I found incredibly powerful, and then of course, just ChatGPT on its own is still almost my favorite. But oh yeah, and then also I use Midjourney to create the cover art of the podcasts.
Well, I'm definitely going to follow you. That's cool that you test out all of these tools. Are there any tools that you create like shorts with that you can intersperse like um, B-roll footage? Have you found any good tools for that?
Yes. So.
Like CapCut?
Mm-hmm. There is a tool called Vidyo, Vidyo, and you can upload video or sound files, and it is very intelligent and finds important or relevant snippets from the whole file, and it suggests sound bites and creates the captions and everything. A huge time saver as well.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Rena, for having joined me here. Please message me your emails so I can add it to the podcasting platform so you get that notification when it's out. As I have promised you, it will be live within 20 minutes after we have closed this room. The other thing that I want to bring your attention to, everyone, is I have every Saturday I have a live Zoom call where I show on a live Zoom call a process that I use to create a video entirely done with AI. That goes from the scripting, the storyboarding, the music, the cover, and even the AI actor in the video itself. Everything start to finish AI, and that's a 1 hour long Zoom call that I have. And if someone wants to join me there, I need you to go to my landing page, aimasterbootcamp.com, aimasterbootcamp.com, and sign up. You can also just click my face and use the link in my profile. I have recently partnered with a mega influencer here on LinkedIn, Shanae Moray. She has over 1 million followers. Just find her in my connections. And her and I, and Andrea here in the room, we are also working very diligently on finding ways to teach people how to use AI to be more efficient and more creative in their processes to build their personal brands. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. Anyone else want to join me and Rena on stage for some final thoughts? Maybe some questions even? No. Okay. That's fine. Well, Rena, thank you for your time to be here with me on stage, and beautiful listeners in the audience, thank you as well. You could have chosen to be anywhere, but you chose to be with us here, and that makes me very happy. I'm gonna play some music to Landers and wish you a very great rest of your Sunday. And hopefully the start in the new week won't be too rough. Maybe you even have another day off. I hope you do. I hope that for you. All right. Bye-bye for now. Love, peace, and light from San Antonio, Texas.